Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs. I'm Sue, and you've just stepped into Entrepreneurs Gone Wild. Every week, I'll introduce you to a friend of mine, a remarkable entrepreneur who's not just changing the world, but also harnessing a secret weapon, time outdoors. Together, we'll dive into their journey, unpack invaluable business advice, and discover why embracing the wild is not just good for the soul, but also a goldmine for inspiration and innovation. Ready to uncover the secret that's boosting bottom lines and fueling joy? Hit subscribe and join us in the wild. Hey, welcome back to Entrepreneurs Gone Wild. Today, I have a new friend and I want you to meet him, Luis Aguilar. Did I say it right? Did I do it right?
Yeah, it's you got like 90% of it. So
Close,
yeah,
so close.
yeah, close enough. Yeah, absolutely.
Please
Yeah,
welcome
thanks
to
for
the
having
show.
me
I'm
here.
really glad you're here. And thank you so much to Stacy Lauren who connected us. This is she knows the best people, and I'm always excited to meet another entrepreneur. Now, I know we just had a chance to talk a little bit, and I found out that you're kind of a new entrepreneur. I'd love if you could just kind of introduce yourself and say how you got into this crazy world.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, I don't want to go too far back, but I'm new to entrepreneurship. I recently quit my job just so I can really do this full time because that's actually what I felt was required of me. But I love the kind of creative and imaginative aspect of just being able to and being autonomous. And I find that that's the positive side, but the negative side is you really are on your own. You have to figure it out. You have to problem solve. But the way I got here was I was actually working at a bank before, and my background is completely different, but I wanted to learn money, what is money? And so I thought the best way was to go to bank, and I was there for about a year and a half. And as I started to just get into self-development and all these things, that little thing at the back of my mind, which has always been with me, as in like, how can I keep growing, develop, but at the same time have that 9 to 5 and someone's always telling you do this and do that. I think I just had enough of it, and it's easy to stay on the negative aspect, like, oh, I don't want to do this and all. But the entrepreneurship actually allowed me kind of like this gateway to meet people like yourself and Stacy, and just be around other people that are just so positive and actually willing to help me out so much. I can ask a question, I'll get feedback, and to be honest, the whole idea of entrepreneurship or business is completely different from what I had previously had in mind. So it wasn't a particular moment that led me here, but it's just kind of a bit of this, a bit of that, and finally putting it all together to finally just finding a community online that's now helping me, become an entrepreneur.
That's pretty amazing. It's so funny. Like, if you were to rewind like 5 years ago, right? Would that guy have even like any clue who you are? Like,
Zero.
right? Like,
No,
get out
zero.
of my body. That's me.
Well, because I find that being an entrepreneur, actually, you have to apply what you learn. You have to act on, in order to produce. I mean, it's coming out of that consumer to producer mindset. And I think 5 years ago, I was, I have a background in marine science, so I think I'm intellectual, but really applying what it is that I know now and how to actually connect with people and, bring my message across from my mind to, outward. It's been such a journey. So no, I think maybe I would have seen myself, 5 years kind of like, that kind of looks like you, but it's kind of really a far extension. So
It's amazing. It's so amazing. Well, they always say, starting a business is the best personal development course out there, because you're going to have every thought you had challenged, every belief about yourself, good, bad, ugly, whatever. It's like, it's all right there. So.
Absolutely. And it's funny because just before this, I mean, I've discovered that building a business and being an entrepreneur, you really have to do like work on yourself, as you have to ask yourself why, and just why. And when you get to like a place where it's just this, I don't know, like a giving, an abundant feel, that's the moment you're like, okay, now I'm ready to start a business.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
It's a whole other thing. Well, we've danced around it, but I want to know now, like, what is your business that you're doing?
yeah. Okay, so I was kind of thinking about it in like how could I best explain it? And I think there's two components of what I'm trying to do with my business. There's like the macro and the micro. So the macro is really to help busy professionals, as what I was before, and entrepreneurs, which is what I am now, to kind of design their ideal life. And what does that mean? The way I interpret that is being able to intentionally choose and decide how it is and how you want to live. And that's kind of like the macro. That's really, I can go into more depth, but the micro, for me personally, there are certain like catapults, catalysts that help me to kind of dive deeper into what it is, the type of life that I want. And right now I'm currently focusing on fitness because health is just that way to embody, you know, you really start to feel what it is that you're eating and how you sleep and how you exercise. And I really found that that was actually something that was important to me that kind of spilled over into other aspects of my life and like to the emotional, mental, even spiritual side of who I am today. So the macro really is looking at how can I live and design a life that I truly live fulfilled, but then kind of taking it step by step. And that's what New Dynamo U is focusing at the moment. It's like, how can I use this gateway, which is physical fitness, to ultimately achieve, you know, people on their journey to really just in whatever it is that you want, but live that fulfilling life and doing it intentionally. And I found that fitness was just a great way. For me, it's been amazing. And the more I discover it, and because that's what drove me here, but the more I go into it and research it, the more I found that it's really profound, actually.
That's wild. Did you have kind of a fitness journey? You know, a lot of people will be like, "Oh man, I never," you know, especially entrepreneurs, I never leave my desk. I'm always inside. I'm like, "Oh, walk, exercise, laugh." You know, did you have some time where you're not so fit, and then decided that this was important?
Um, well, my family and I would like we originally from El Salvador, and we moved because there was a civil war, and immigrant growing up, we didn't have money for like extracurricular activities. It wasn't until I became an adult that I would actually started joining different, like playing soccer and boxing, and I've always been athletic but just didn't have the ability to do so. So I found that being able to do that now has really been able to like place me where I am today. And it's funny, you asked me a couple other questions just before this. I've done a lot of different things in my life. Like I've been a whitewater rafting guide. I actually did an internship in Kenya where I was always around, a place of adventure outdoors, which, was hiking. It was, and I think that's always been a part of my life. But what I'm doing currently is I actually do capoeira, which is a Brazilian martial arts. Yeah. And I think being able to discover myself more, I'm more intentional with my fitness, my physical health. I don't just do exercise to exercise. There's like an objective behind it. So when I do physical fitness, like going to the gym, it's for the purpose of improving my game in the martial arts. So that's kind of, so it's always been something that's part of me, but now I'm really intentional about it.
Yeah, it sounds very strategic, which is.
Now it is. I just knew I had to move. And I think that's why I was terrible in school, because I was just like, I have energy. And now I realize, okay, I sit down, and then after 45 minutes, I get these jitters and I have to do something else. And I think being aware and knowing that I am kind of an athletic person, I have this buildup of energy. So I don't, and that's also why I had to leave the 9 to 5, because we're there for 8 hours and it's just against my very nature to be sitting down for so long. So I think I don't have that struggle, but being consistent. Well, I mean, that's another game, you know.
Yeah, really. Anybody can do it once, right? It's doing it
Exactly.
every
Yeah.
day.
Every day. Exactly. And I think that's where you have to really start to organize yourself and,
Yeah.
you know, really find that underlying motivation to be like, why am I doing this again? Oh, right. If I take care of this, then actually when I do work, I'm just that much more inspired and focused and yeah, in the
That's
present.
huge. That's
Hmm.
huge. And so you're bringing this to other people who, very busy professionals, maybe entrepreneurs, and they're doing. So what are you actually like selling for them?
Yeah. So because I do capoeira and I do physical training and this and that, well, when I started going to the gym, I noticed that I was just getting stiff. I didn't have that kind of mobility, right? Because I didn't know about stretching. Um, so it wasn't until someone explained to me, for example, compound exercises, right? Squats, deadlifts, like pull-ups. Like if you worked like your body in a uniform kind of way that you use multiple muscles. I mean, it's just more applicable in your everyday life. And that's what I like about functional fitness. And it wasn't until later that I was introduced to, and I know this is a bit advanced, but like doing the splits and
Ooh.
doing the bridge. But the way I see it is they're like compound stretching, you know,
Mm.
instead of just isolating certain stretches, you can just do the splits. And I know it's advanced, but the way I see it is that I can hit various muscle groups at the same time. So what I'm trying to, I'm in the pre-launch portion right now is working on suspension straps, because what they do is they can actually work doing strength training, but also incorporating like exercises that are geared towards flexibility, mobility, and stability, which after doing some research, I realized that, you know, in North America, one of the biggest types of surgery actually when you hit older age are like hip replacements,
Mhm.
right? Because a lack of mobility. And I realized that that's why I just loved, you know, being able to incorporate certain stretches into my workout routine, because I would look at kids, for example, you know, ages 5, 10. I've got nieces and nephews, and I saw them grow up, and sometimes they would fall and they would like do a cartwheel or a backflip by accident. And I started to wonder, I'm like, why is it that as adults we lose that? And I realized that if you incorporate it into your life, you can actually regain it. And it's something that, because of, I mean, we're sedentary, right? But you can definitely regain it. And I think that me being able to do capoeira, which is, you know, more acrobatic, it was just more in my face. And I'm like, I think that even if someone doesn't do a martial arts or they're not acrobatic, the very principle of like incorporating mobility and range of motion, it makes you feel good. I mean, it prevents injuries, because the brand itself is really long term. I mean, if you want to create your ideal life, well, I mean, I want to live to be 100. I don't want my physical body to limit what I have in my heart and my mind and, you know, all these ambitions. So that's something that I'm really trying to put forward and kind of share that with people. I'm not an expert. I'm just saying this is something that I've discovered, and I know it'll be helpful for anyone actually.
That's huge. And that's really cool. I mean, even growing up as kind of an athletic kid, like to take on I mean, that's a
Yeah.
serious thing. You're not just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
playing pickleball on a weekend, right? Like,
Yeah, like we're doing backflips and
that's
handstand.
amazing. So you can do backflips? Can you do it?
Yeah,
I don't
well,
think you
yeah,
can
I
here, but
learned, and I mean, the biggest part is actually the fear of going backwards.
sure.
Once you confront that fear, you got to trust your body, actually. It's really trusting your body. And that's why I love martial arts, because you have to get in tune with, you know, your body and the reason why. And the reason why I particularly like capoeira is because it integrates music and culture at the same time. So it gives you this sort of like mental heart workout and physical at the same time. So it's absolutely amazing.
It sounds like it might almost be so much fun you don't even notice you're actually like working, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why I wanted to actually go to the gym and stuff, just to get better, because it's so fun.
That's
Yeah.
really
I
cool.
know that's a mouthful, but I mean,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
that's
awesome though. I love that. And I think, it's funny. So I'm 56. So you start going, well, all right, like there's endurance, there's strength, like the mobility, of course, but like you also said that, balance and being able to get up if you fall. I mean, all that kind of stuff, like it starts getting
Absolutely.
real. You're like, whoa,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's
I
huge.
think it's, and just looking at my parents, I mean, my mom, she says, "Oh, my muscles hurt today." I'm like, I understand, and I try to, you know, try to encourage her, and I know, and even I spoke to my grandmother. She passed away a couple of years ago, but even before that, she told me I do a mini workout every day, and I'm like, wow. She was 94 when she passed away,
Oh,
and
great. What
and
was
I was
she
like,
doing for her workout?
well, I can't remember now, but there was, just to keep her
Yeah.
warm, I think, just
Yeah.
I think she might have done some stretches and nothing like crunches or,
Yeah, right. Not,
but even at her age, I think and that's what I really want to kind of transmit through my messaging is
yeah.
that you know it. It's in you. You know it. You sometimes maybe you just need like some motivation or like a path to be able to do it, but you know it. You know that your body needs that. And I think we've become accustomed to sitting down and that connection, and which is why I really like what you're doing is that with the outdoor connection. I mean, it's really important. And I think when you just bring it to someone's attention, they're like, oh yeah, of course. I mean,
Right.
of course.
I think,
Yeah,
entrepreneurs get so busy too. A lot are very into like human, biohacking and human
yeah,
optimization. Like, they're very, very fit and all this kind of stuff. But for other people, it is very easy to let all of that stuff, like, oh, I'll do that when I have time, and same thing
yeah,
with getting outside. So
yeah.
I
And it's
can,
only until you're outside that you realize that, wow, I'm really neglecting, but you have to have this sort of self-awareness, and there's always,
right.
but I'm so new to entrepreneurship. I mean, I think having that side of me that has just like this whole different, upgrowing and this and that, I'm really trying to incorporate, and it's again finding that balance between
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm trying to work on this business, but I can't achieve what I want to achieve if I'm neglecting other aspects of my life. And being outdoors, being fit, is definitely
Yeah.
important.
I think it's so important too that you're taking this on as a priority early, which is great. You're not waiting until you've had a heart attack or something. You go, oh, maybe I ought to take care of this. This is something that you're putting in at the foundation, both of your life and the business that you're building. So
Yeah.
that's really
Well,
smart.
it smart, I don't know, but I mean, yeah, of course, but I'm just so thankful. I mean, I'm really thankful that I don't know, everything that I've learned up until now, it's come to me. And now I'm searching. I'm like, don't let me run. I just want to be fit, but in all aspects. I mean, not just the physical, but in the emotional, mental, spiritual, everything. And I'm so thankful that I've come to this place, and I know that if I continue, I mean, I'll have this smile for the rest of my life just because I'm really just doing what I love to do.
You're loving
Yeah.
that. That's great. So where are you in your business? Are you, so I know you've come through the capitalism training. We always talk about like pick your
Yeah.
person, build your
Yeah.
list, get in
Yeah.
front of these people, develop the product they want. It sounds
Yeah.
like you're doing all these things.
Well, I think that's so we were speaking earlier, and I mean, entrepreneurship is really one of the best ways for self-growth development. Um, and it's funny that I'm now working with people who share a similar journey as myself. I think I'm just crazy enough to quit my job and like go all out and do the research that I guess, some people don't want to do. But I am so thankful that I am able to serve people that I understand. And the more I'm able to do that, it's just a pure reflection of me and deconstructing to really understand why I'm doing this and the best way to do it and really give value. So I think that was the best kind of point that the 1% that they gave me, capitalism.com. They said focus on you who, and if you really kind of decide who to be you, then you understand the pain points and you understand what it is that I'm trying to achieve. And yeah, I feel like it's more genuine. And I think once you build on that foundation, I mean, everything else that comes afterwards is just, it's not easy, but it's simple, right? And I've been hearing that a bit more often, but it's so true. I mean, if you can solve other people's problem, then whose problem are you actually trying to solve? Well, my own, and now trying to share that with other people. It's such a fulfilling experience that it's beyond my, I'm already having fun, to be honest.
That's so great. I'm so glad, because it could be tempting to just like, oh my gosh, I got to quit my job. I'm going to put my blinders on, put my nose down, and just work, and stress yourself out in the process. But I think you're really approaching it from this like place of like, hey, this was a problem. I think I can solve it for people. I love the people I'm going to solve it for, and going from there. That's neat.
I mean, it's stressful, but I think it's the way you kind of go about it, actually. If you feel stressed, know that you're stressed, and then do something that will kind of bring you back into that lightness and carry forward. But I really, and it's cliche, I mean, when you solve other people's problems and you see how you're actually helping, it's fulfilling, it's great. It's really rewarding. Because along the way you get to meet interesting people and you get to do different things, and it's great.
That's true. It's true. Now I know that speaking of meeting interesting people, like right now, this is awesome. I love this. So I know you have a podcast going as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I really like the idea of doing a podcast because it allows you to be social, but like in an intentional way, and you get to meet great people and you get to build a community that way as well. I mean, you get to understand someone and what they're going through. So right now, as I mentioned, it's like an extension of my business. So I'm focusing on fitness, but even then, like I've invited people who don't really talk about fitness. They're just talking about like consciousness and motivation and all of these types of things. And it's just great to talk about that, because I think that fitness is not limited to just the physical aspect. And when I get to meet people that talk about these, I don't claim to be an expert. I'm kind of just like a middleman, like a gateway for experts to talk about and share that message to other people. So that's kind of what I'm aiming for through the podcast. So other people's messages can be geared towards and find it, hopefully helpful to other people and give them insight and just create a community that way.
That's awesome. It's fun too, isn't it? It's especially never having had any. You said you just hadn't even been listening to them until fairly recently, and now you're doing it.
Well, and it's funny because I didn't really listen to podcasts because it's like an hour of my time. Like, I don't know. I'm more conscious of my time, but now I realize that everyone, especially if you're interested in the topic, of course, there's so much insight to be gained that it's actually really helpful in the long run. And I think I've learned so much just to listen to different podcasts. Stacy's one of them. Ryan Moran from Capitalism. They just have opened my mind to a different level. I'm just like, inspired all the time.
It's amazing. I find the same thing. It's like, I like to listen in the car. So especially if I have a long drive, that's going to be the thing. And it's like, oh my gosh, I have to have like a notebook, because even if I'm driving, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to look at my notes, but I'm going to scribble some stuff down.
I do that all the time. It's noting stuff down. Yeah. And I've got this layers of stacks of paper here because I've got notes everywhere. And I'm like, wow, I got to organize so that I have ideas. But yeah, and I think that's really how I know that podcasts are really that interesting, because I'll just put pause and I'm like, whoa, that was an amazing idea, and then you connect the dots with other things that you're learning, and it just becomes this great thing. A positive feedback.
I love that. And it's funny. So I'm always telling people, like, get away from your computer. Like, don't just treat your outdoor time like it's a reward. Like that's actually the best way to go and solve your business challenges, get your great new idea, you know, find inspiration for content. Whatever you need to do is probably waiting for you outside. Mm-hmm. But most people, you know, I don't really have time. I don't know, you know. But here's the other thing is like that is the time where, so you do all, you know, you're listening to podcasts, you're reading articles, you're doing all this intake. Yeah. And it's in there. It's like this super stuff, yeah. Right? But if you're outside and not on your phone, nothing, you're just like taking a walk, mowing the lawn, whatever. That's when your brain starts going, ooh, this connects to here. Oh, that's this, you know. Mm-hmm. And so have you had that experience as well, being outside and going, these dots just aligned?
Like recently I go for walks. I mean, luckily there's a park that's near here, so I just kind of go around, and then I've got friends that, you know, within the park there's trails and things like that, so I go. But beforehand, because I've just been an entrepreneur for about a year now, so I definitely value, and it's absolutely right. I was about to say, it's like counterintuitive. You think you don't have the time, but once you make time, you realize that it just gives you so much in return, and you're actually more efficient afterwards. But the reason why I know what you're saying is true is because beforehand I used to really travel a lot, and I did have moments where you're outside and everything just kind of hits, and you're just like, this is an amazing moment. Life makes sense. And it's that feeling that you kind of relive when you're, you know, just kind of in your room or your home, whatever, you haven't been outside. And I know that rings true because anytime you relive that moment, it just, you know, kind of gives you that feeling again to, you know, get re-energized. One in particular, I was in Alaska, and I saw the borealis lights for the first time, and, you know, being that far north, it really inspires you. And, you know, those aha moments where you just remember, and it's almost nostalgic, you know, and you start remembering all these different things. And even today, I literally see it right now, and I kind of try to carry that in my work. So having those moments was absolutely crucial.
That's so cool. It's like this visceral stamp on your soul or something, you know, after you see something like that. That's
because it's just beyond you, really. Yeah. And I've actually hitchhiked from like the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, tell me about that. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I did it with a friend of mine. His name is Owen Hosford, who he passed away in 2015.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, we traveled, and we did from, I currently live in Montreal at the moment, so we left from the Pacific all the way, and we did it in about 10 days or something, and it was during the summer, and we traveled across, and being out in nature, camping and all that, it was really amazing. And then I later went to the Atlantic, and just being able to see all these small towns and meet amazing people. I was always in shock as to how giving people are. You know, people gave us food and it's just, people are amazing, really. And it just, viewing it from that perspective, I don't know. It was just an amazing experience.
What an incredible experience. How old were you when you did that?
When I traveled across, maybe like 24 or something like that.
It's amazing. Like you'll never forget that. It's like I bet you could totally like just close your eyes and picture, oh, this is what Montana is like. This is, you know, like you have different scenes that I guarantee you like stamped on your brain.
Oh yeah, I can see and I mean, having a background in marine science, I mean, I kind of look at the geography of everything, and they're really, really unique. And just soaking all that in, right? The climate and the geography, and then the people, and everyone's got their own little thing, and you hear music, right? And it's like, wow. Yeah, it was really an amazing experience. I mean, I wish everyone could do it. I don't know, if that's possible now.
Parents everywhere are going, no.
Yeah. I mean, you really have to have that sense of adventure to do that, because I mean, I wasn't taking taxis. It was really hitchhiking. And
amazing.
So,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, now I got another question because so with this whole background in marine science, like does that impact how you're outside? Like are you noticing stuff that the average person's probably not going to even notice?
Oh, tons. I mean, um, yeah, so I did a master's in marine science, well, geological marine sciences, and the amount of information that I know is I, not a lot of people know. And
Yeah.
um, like the depth of the interconnectedness of everything is quite overwhelming, actually. I mean, um, I'm sure everyone knows now because if bees were to disappear, right? Because I know there's, especially in the States, I think there's been kind of a
Mhm.
crisis where they're diminishing. And uh, yeah, there's news kind of everywhere. If the bees go, then humans disappear 4 years afterwards or something like that
Yeah.
because they're so integral. And having that background, I just know that if one species of a plant or, a fauna or flora kind of disappear or added, we just don't know how we're so interconnected that we can actually calculate and predict that a certain outcome will come out of it. And there's so much at play that and it's funny, I actually there was one of your questions because Susan, you gave me some questions that kind of go through. And what I would like to do in the future, well, it's kind of an idea that I have, because I love being on the coast and the ocean, is to kind of build a interactive information center where I could have, it's kind of like a tourist guide thing, where I can educate people about the ocean, but in a way where I'm not claiming that, oh, I know everything, let me teach you. It's more like, how can we exchange information to make this place where people can actually find science fun? And if I go from it from that perspective, I think that um, being able to share that with other people would be just much more easier instead of me just saying, oh, did you know that, fact this, fact that, model this, model that. Yeah. So,
Yeah. There's got to be a better way, right? I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
that's so cool. I love that. I think that would be fantastic. There's just so much, and I often wonder, so since I have you here, I'm going to ask you.
Sure.
For a lot of people, there's this kind of sense of like um, ecological anxiety, like environmental anxiety. So they're hearing, like you said, they're bombarded all the time with, these messages of doom, right? We
Mhm.
don't, typically we don't know enough personally to do much. We can be responsible, help the bees, help the, take care, be, decent
Right.
people on the planet.
Yeah.
But so do you feel like maybe you knowing, like, do you know enough that it makes you anxious? And if so, how do you deal with, knowing,
Yeah.
and, how do you function in life without getting kind of down that rabbit hole of, oh gosh.
Um, that's that's really a big question because um I mean I don't want to scare people. Um, I know enough to know that change needs to happen.
Yeah.
Um, but it's amazing when people can do what they can in their own little world because um as an entrepreneur, I mean, I've heard people like, oh, I want to make the world a better place. And the way I interpret that is do what you can in your own little community, your own little world. And by doing so, you can actually make your positive contribution. And so it kind of got depressing as the state of things, knowing this, and I have facts and I've read tons of articles, but at the end of the day, I'm like, if people really want to do their best to improve and the way they can, and really to be genuine, not just like, oh, I'm going to stop doing this. Like, no, really be genuine about it and do what you can. I think we can definitely see a positive outcome. And there's tons of technology that's coming out, right? And I really like how there's a holistic view on things that people are starting to notice that the ecological footprint that we're leaving has an actual impact on how our quality of life, and I think that if more people kind of come into terms, then instead of just throwing trash on the ground and putting it in the bin, and now after that, that's a whole other conversation how we manage that. But just the intention is there, and I think that if you feel it upon yourself to really do what you can, then that's already a huge step forward.
Yeah. No, I think that sounds very reasonable. I mean, and if you think about it, like anything that humanity is dealing with, it's like if people will stick to the like do the thing you're really, really great at, like make your ripple effect, because that's going to have a positive impact on everybody, And it's like it might not be directly related to whatever, to the environment or to whatever, but just like you said, like doing your part as far as being the most excellent thing you can be, that's gotta help.
Yeah, because I mean, if people that, oh, I'm just one person. Yeah, but you see it from a negative way. Actually, if you view it from a positive way, yeah, you are one person, and you do have empowerment. You do have a voice in it. You do have this and that and that and this. So go do it, And I think just like being an entrepreneur, I mean, actually doing things and applying yourself, it's scary. It really is scary. I mean, having this knowledge, but applying it and walk the walk is it's scary. Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well, all right. So we're going to be building at the retreat center I'm building. We want to have like permaculture. I want to build a food forest. So people, it's Appalachia. So there's a lot of hunger issue there. And I'm like so excited. So you have to come.
I will. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's one way of kind of like emancipating yourself is, I don't understand. Well, whatever, but having this kind of grassy, like a front yard. I mean, it would be better used to like produce food.
Totally.
Food, it'll make your soil more fertile. You will invite bees and birds and all these. It's like a positive feedback loop. Anyone who grows food, I'm like, wow, you are a hero.
Oh, I love that.
Absolutely.
I don't think my neighbors thought that when I turned our front yard into a garden at one point, like food for like. So I do it in straw bales, right? And they were all in the front yard. We had one neighbor, what are you doing there? Like, growing food.
Right. Yeah,
it's like we don't need all this grass.
No. And I was actually speaking to a friend of mine a couple of years ago, and she was like an educator, and she invited kids to a farm, and she's like, where do you think your carrots come from? And they're like, the supermarket. And she pulls a carrot out of the ground, and the kids were like, what? Yeah. And she was like, wow, it's really crazy that you guys are all disconnected, that this is actually where food comes from. Carrots, potatoes, I mean, they all come from the ground. Right.
It's true. Yeah. It's an amazing thing. It's like you plant a seed and you got food.
Yeah. And I lived in Brazil just a couple of years ago, and they have a program where any green space, kind of like an empty green space, the government will actually plant seeds that produce fruit. So even if you're homeless on the street, you always have a tree that will give you, and of course Brazil is tropical, so you have fruit everywhere. And it's funny, people all the time, they'll just walk around to the corner of the street and they'll pick mangoes, pick papayas, and and they'll cook, and it's just from like public trees everywhere. And I'm like, that is an amazing initiative. I don't know why that doesn't exist everywhere.
I like that. Oh, I want to do that. That's so cool.
And it's like public property in the city. It's amazing. Not just rural areas. It's like really urban. Yeah. And I was like, this is amazing. That's a great program.
It really is. Imagine, I mean, granted, it's so spread out here. You got these rural areas and city areas and all that. But if everybody just if more people grew food and just let it, let people have it, I don't know. There seems like there's a way that this can work.
Yeah, there's always a possibility. Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. I love that. Man. All right. So, Luis, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah. So I have a Facebook group that I'm really trying to create this community, so we can share and build and learn and grow. And So that's at dynamou.com. So you can join there, and I'm putting a lot more energy towards that because being new, well, being on social media is an amazing experience because I get to, produce and really talk about my business. So I'm on Instagram and TikTok. That's at New Dynamo U. But what I'm really trying to do with this group is create a community, which I find there's a distinction there. I love people, hearing my story and connecting with the message, and those are followers. That's great. But really now taking those people and putting them in a group and be like, you have a voice now, like, let's share. And I think that's more impactful. So dynamou.com is what I'm really trying to put my focus on currently. But if not, I've also got my podcast, which is on Spotify and Apple. So just look for a New Dynamo U. And as I mentioned, Instagram, also Facebook, just look for New Dynamo U that way. Yeah.
That's fantastic. All right. Now you got to promise, will you come back sometime and tell us, like, I want to hear how your launch goes and how things go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. This is really a nice chat. Well, thanks for letting me talk about me. No.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to have you.
Yeah.
Can't wait to have you meet everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I would definitely love to come back. I think what you're doing is amazing. And I know that you launched another podcast with Jules.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Jules and I have been on, I love Jules. Jules Sue is awesome. But yeah, she's
absolutely amazing.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
And so I haven't listened to it yet, but I will. And I think you are really connecting with great people, and I like what you're doing. So yeah, definitely would be a pleasure to come back. Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to have you on. I mean, sure, man. I would like to ask you questions about what your inspirations are and what you're doing with nature. And I want your permaculture project. Definitely, I'm interested.
I think this sounds like a good plan.
Yes, absolutely.